Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today marks the 200th anniversary of the death of the Emperor, and I thought we'd commemorate that event with a look at the controversy. I think that might be too strong a word, but the different recollections, shall we say, of his last words. Now, normally these Wednesday night videos I try and keep to 10 minutes long. I've got absolutely no idea how long this one's going to be, but I'm hoping that you'll indulge me just this once on the event of the death of the Emperor, the 200th anniversary. Now, as I say, there's some controversy over what his last words actually were, but there's a couple of candidates, with one phrase in particular often being repeated as being his last words. Despite being exiled to the British island of St. Helena, he wasn't there on his own, having some staff with him, and obviously doctors. Now, I'm going to be completely honest here. I've basically ripped this entire video, word for word, from a website. Now, I want to give a shout out to this website. I don't want him to think that I'm just stealing it and not going to give them credit. It's an author called Shannon Seelin. That's S-E-L-I-N. And her website is shannonseelin.com. Now, she's written a number of historical books, including one about whether Napoleon manages to escape and gets to America. He gets the officers who are in Louisiana and South Carolina and Georgia around him, and he starts creating a new power base. It looks really interesting. I've not had a chance to read it yet myself, but I'll put a link in the description down below. Check that out. If you're not that interested in the book, that's fine. Honestly though, check out the website. It's really, really good. It's particularly good for those little stories, those little vignettes that you know I like to sprinkle around in my videos. Anyway, she's got a whole page on this, and this is going to be basically the entire section going forward. So I'm going to say quote, and then I'll go through the what she says. There's going to be times within that where I say quote again, and that's where Shannon Seelin quotes other writers. So with that in mind, it's actually turned into quite a nice sunny day here in the north of England. But imagine, if you will, imagine in your minds that it's a cold, dark May night in the South Atlantic. There's roaring winds lashing against the windows of Lockwood House, each gust of wind making the raindrops patter off the panes like canister fire. The only illumination in this scene is from a small covered lamp on the bedside of one of the greatest men in history. Huddled around him, a knot of men, some great generals, some adequate generals, and the doctors huddle around. Fate has sent them here, almost as exiled as their emperor. All know he is about to die. And I'm going to let Shannon Seelin take over from here. Quote, Napoleon's second valet, Louis-Étienne Saint-Denis, described the state of Napoleon's attendants during Napoleon's final night. She goes on to quote, the Emperor had been in bed for 40-odd days, and we who had been constantly with him, waiting on him, were so tired and needed rest so much that we could not control our sleepiness. The quiet of the apartment favoured it. All of us, whether on chairs or sofas, took some instants of rest. If we woke up, we hurried to the bed. We listened attentively to hear the breath, and we poured into the Emperor's mouth, which was a little open, a spoonful or two of sugar and water to refresh him. We would examine the sick man's face as well as we could by the reflection of the light hidden behind the screen, which was before the door of the dining room. It was in this way that the night passed. End quote. Saint-Denis does not give us Napoleon's last words. All he could say on the matter is that Napoleon, quote, could only speak a few words, and with difficulty, end quote. Napoleon's Grand Marshal, General Henri Bertrand, did hear some last words early on the morning of May 5th, quote, from 3 o'clock until 4:30, there were hiccups and stifled groans. Then, afterwards, he moaned and yawned. He appeared to be in great pain. He uttered several words which could not be distinguished, and then said, who retreats? Or, definitely, at the head of the army. End quote. Now, Napoleon's doctor, Francesco Antomacci, confirms a couple of these, and he said, quote, the clock struck 5:30 in the morning, and Napoleon was still delirious, speaking with difficulty, and uttering words broken and inarticulate. Amongst others we heard the words, head, army, and these were the last he pronounced, for they had no sooner passed his lips than he lost the power of speech. End quote. Now, Napoleon's first valet, Louis-Joseph Marchand, also records Napoleon's last words, and they differ somewhat from those heard by Bertrand and Antomacci. Quote, The hiccups that had appeared at intervals became much more frequent, and delirium set in. The Emperor pronounced a lot of inarticulate words that were translated. France, my son, the army. One can conclude with absolute certainty that his last preoccupation, his last thoughts were of France, his son, and the army. These were the last words we were to hear. End quote. Now, these are often considered to be Napoleon's last words. I mean, they seem to be as good as any. On the website, she does go into analysing how accurate and how believable these different quotes were. But anyway, back to Shannon Selim's work. General Charles de Montholon provides yet another last word. Quote, "The night was very bad. Towards 2 o'clock delirium became evident, and was accompanied by nervous contractions. Twice I thought I distinguished unconnected words. France, armée, tête d'armée, Josephine." End quote. And that's the end of the quotes of Shannon Selim's webpage. Now, Napoleon passed on the morning of the 5th of May, 1821. He was in Longwood House, which was in the foothills of basically St. Helena's a giant mountain that sticks out of the sea, and he was sort of halfway up the mountain. Napoleon had asked in his will to be buried on the banks of the Seine, but the governor of the island, Sir Hudson Lowe, buried him instead on the island with full military honours, including the garrison of 3,000 British troops having reversed arms, in what would become known as Tomb Valley. There was some argument over his tombstone, with the chap we quoted a bit ago, General Tristan de Montholon, wanted Napoleon, as kings and emperors are known by their first names. He just wanted Napoleon on the gravestone. In order to take away that royal prestige from him, though, Hudson Lowe insisted on adding the word Bonaparte. Thus it was that the stone was left blank. And so it remained, until the French government of Louis-Philippe I requested that Napoleon's remains be repatriated to France, and on the 15th of October 1840, his body was exhumed and later reburied at the great mausoleum it can be visited in today at Les Invalides in Paris, in an event known as the Retour des Condés. Now, we'll have to cover those events in 2040, I guess, or you can hear a little soupçon about them in my Old Guard at Waterloo video, or just my Old Guard Grenadiers video. I'll probably link the Old Guard at Waterloo in the description if I remember. But hopefully, I'm going to have another video out before 2040, before the 200th anniversary of the repatriation of his body. Hopefully it'll be this weekend. Remember, I am doing the challenge of the whole of the Waterloo starter box in May. We had a couple of live streams about this. They were really good fun, so I hope you can join us for those, maybe in the future, or have a look back at the old ones. I have done an unboxing of the Waterloo starter set as well. I'm going to clip that. I'm going to put that up as a separate bonus video, probably this weekend. But other than that, thank you very much for listening. If you're not subscribed, please do so. It really helps the channel grow. It helps YouTube know that, people are actually interested in this stuff, gets it to the top of search results and that kind of stuff. And I'll see you then.